Welcome to Who Dares Sins, where you get the opportunity to get something off your chest that you might have had on there for a very long time. It might be bugging you that you haven't told the truth. You might have stitched someone up. You might have done something you're not proud of. Well, let me know, and I'll let everybody else know. If you want to remain anonymous, that's up to you. Or maybe you want everybody to know exactly who it was who sinned. So let's get on with it. In this episode of Who Dares Sins, by popular demand, I'm going to give you a couple of stories which happened during my time in the SAS. Because that's what people have asked for. Right, story number one. I had a long past selection, and I went straight to my squadron, D Squadron, and we were on the counter-terrorism team, which was a massively exciting time for me for a number of reasons. A, you could be operationally deployed at any time. B, you were actually doing something which you dreamt about all your life, and everything now was at your disposal. The weapons, the kit, the vehicles, it was all there. C, you were doing stuff with a live squadron. And there's a whole other heap of reasons why this was a very exciting time, but not least of all, I now, for the very first time in my military career, had some responsibility. I, Trooper Campion, had a tiny bit of responsibility. So, to that end, I was issued with a pager. Now that made me feel massively important, and pagers at the time, you didn't get one in a normal unit unless you were like the adjutant or the CO. So to have a pager made me feel 15 foot high. It was a great feeling, I'm going to tell you. I cut around with that pager. I took it everywhere I went. I made sure I had a spare battery for it. It was a pencil battery. Made sure I had a spare battery for it. And whenever I left the house, the pager came with me, and occasionally once a day I would test it just to make sure it was still working. And I was going to be ready when that pager went off. I can tell you that now. When that pager went, I was going to be the first one in camp reacting to it. I knew that in the back of my mind. That was going to happen. Anyway, I'm strolling round Sainsbury's, pushing my old trolley, chucking beans, sausages, whatever it is in my trolley, and I feel this vibrating in my pocket. Now, when you were out and about, you couldn't have your pager set to loud because you weren't supposed to be in the SAS, so you kept your pager outside in your pocket. It's vibrating. Now, so aside from it being quite a nice feeling vibrating in my pocket, if you know what I mean, it was going off. My pager was going off. Wow. First time ever. How excited am I? So I do this comedy thing where I sort of like take my trolley and I slide it across the thing and get rid of that. And then I think, right, I've got to get it out of here. So I come out of Sainsbury's. I do this funny sort of like half walk, half run. But once I get to the door of Sainsbury's, I'm in a full bolt sprint. I am moving, I'm shifting, I'm absolutely tearing up the ground like there's no tomorrow. So I'm out of there, I turn left, I'm down towards the roundabout, I'm past the Welsh Club, I'm past the ship, and I'm up towards camp, the old camp. Old school. As I come up to the camp, I turn left, I go down that road towards Stirling Lines. As I get towards the camp, I realise there's going to be an MOD copper in my way. He's going to be stood there stopping me from coming into camp. So as I'm running down the road, I'm pulling out my wallet, I'm getting my ID card ready. Here I am, the ID card's there. And by the time I get to him, the ID card's in my hand. And I'm like, I'm here, I've come to save the world. He knows the crack. He's got the gate open. He's waiting. He's seen Trooper Campion coming. Trooper Campion is about to save the world. So I'm now sprinting. And I'm through camp, and I've got to make it to the Sergeant Major's office because that's where the shouters come from. So I'm down, you've got to go through a little bit of this, that, and the other, and then when I get down towards where the quadrangle, the old quadrangle was, I go past A Squadron, past B Squadron, up past G Squadron, and I'm hurtling down that corridor towards D Squadron's interest room, and the Sergeant Major's office is at the end of the interest room. So as I come into the interest room, I round that corner, I realise there's nobody else there. I'm the first one who's made it back, as I'd always promised myself, and as I see the Sergeant Major's door is just open slightly ajar, I go bursting through, I'm here. He looks up at me, and he says, I'm so glad. He said, the vicar has got a tent that he needs putting up, and I thought you'd be just the man for the job. Devastated, but I know I've got to keep a smile on my face. Oh, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I shall make my way to the vicar's house now. Now this is where I have to make my confession. I'll get to the vicar's place. And he's there. He's as keen as mustard. And on the floor is a great big bag. And there's another bag, and there's some poles, and there's an hammer. He's got all the gear, all the clobber. It's already been delivered. I'm the only one there. I'm going to have to struggle putting his tent up on my own. Everybody else has probably realised what's going on and swerved it. So now I'm here on my own. What's the tent for, sir? Oh, we're having a bit of a garden party tomorrow. Oh. He said, help yourself to a drink of water or a cup of squash in the kitchen. So anyway, I thought I'm going to need that later. So I started putting the tent up. Tink, 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 tink. It takes me an absolute age. I've got to build the frame. I've got to drag the... It's not fair on your own luck, do you know what I mean? I was proper disgruntled. I was dismayed. I didn't know. But I had to do it. The vicar's going to expect a young sass man to be able to put a tent up, isn't he? I think, right, I'm sweating now. I'm getting hot. I think to myself, I'll go and get myself the said cup of water or glass of squash. As I go into the kitchen, for whatever garden party there is, there's banks of food. There's sandwiches. It's like the conveyor belt of the buffet. There's sandwiches. There's chicken wings. There's cocktail sausages with cheese and onion and all that sort of caper going on. I think to myself, I'll tell you what, I'm pretty hungry here. I'll get that tent up and I'll rob a bit of this stuff. I'll get in there and I'm proper hungry. So I'll nick a few of the sandwiches. I'll budge them up a little bit. I'll nick a few of the sausage rolls. I'll budge them up. There was some nice little vol-au-vent things with some prawns in. I'll nick a few of them. I'll budge them up as well. And add quite a bit of cheese and cheese and pineapple. I made a right pig of myself, I'm going to tell you. And I know that the next day you probably didn't have as much food as what you thought you were going to have. And for that, I must apologise. But you did have a tent that was put up. And so fair's fair, really. And all you was going to offer me was a glass of squash, to be honest. So I'm not upset. I don't think I've got to answer to anybody else. But I did think that you needed to know, the vicar, on that day, I robbed your food. My second confession today is a relatively quick one, and it goes down to a time where we were doing some MOE training, method of entry training, and we travelled down to Tidworth, and we were blowing through windows and doors of an old camp which they were knocking down, and they were going to build a new one on top. This was around the year 2000. We were down there as an MOE group with the vans and all the chargers and all this sort of stuff. We had a great day blowing stuff up. Now, at the end of the day, it was always for somebody to get rid of all the scrap stuff and just make a small explosion and blow it up to get rid of it so you didn't have to hand it in. So it was always done, and it fell on me on that day, as I was the method of entry rep, to collect all these little bits and pieces together and blow them up. Now, the guy who was running the serial that day had been a complete and utter git. He'd just been unbearable. Do this, do that, not good enough, do it again. He'd got on my nerves all day, but all day he'd been eyeing up this Belfast sink. This Belfast sink, he said, because they were knocking the building down, there was a lovely Belfast sink, and I think he had his own house, and he'd eyed up this sink to put into his own house. I thought, I'll have you. I got all that explosives, and I got a little bit more off the van, and I got a little bit more, and a little bit more on top. And using my formula, my favourite formula for demolitions, P for plenty, I packed it under his sink. I told everybody to cover their ears and let them know that I was going to be getting rid of all the unwanted bits and pieces. Whoom, boom, bang. I absolutely obliterated the sink. He came in, he looked around and he said, "What's all this white dust?" I said, "It's your sink." Now, he knows I did it, he just don't know I did it on purpose. So there you go, I did it on purpose, because you, sir, were a tit that day. You've been watching Who Dares Sins. If you've got a story you'd like me to tell, if you'd like to fess up, if you've got something you want to get off your chest, why don't you send it in to the details below? Click subscribe at the same time, give us a follow, a thumbs up, you know the score, and who knows, you could star on here yourself.